He sailed across endless seas, fought storms and battles, yet the one thing he never anticipated was a storm waiting for him at home. The sea had always been my home, its waves familiar companions, its storms fierce teachers, but no matter how vast the ocean stretched, my thoughts were never truly at rest. Every night, under a canopy of stars, I found myself imagining her face, her laughter echoing in the quiet corners of my mind. Being a Navy officer demanded discipline, courage, and an unyielding heart, yet even the bravest of souls can carry a longing too heavy to bear. Each mission felt incomplete because somewhere far away, she waited, and I was torn between duty and desire, honor and the warmth of her embrace. I remember standing on deck, the wind whipping my uniform against my skin, and feeling the tug of distance like a physical ache. The horizon stretched endlessly, but in my mind, the shortest distance was to her side. I traced memories like invisible lines across my heart, her smile when we first met, the gentle way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the small gestures that made her presence a home I carried wherever I went. Every message we exchanged before my deployment was a lifeline, but the days between them felt like lifetimes, and the nights were the cruelest, stretching into infinity, filled only with whispers of her name and the hum of the ocean beneath me. Even in the chaos of naval life, amid the clanging of metal and the orders barked across the deck, I felt a quiet, persistent ache, a yearning I could neither ignore nor escape. I imagined the warmth of her hands, the softness of her voice, and the way she always seemed to see into the deepest parts of me that the world could not. I carried these thoughts like a compass, guiding me through treacherous waters, reminding me that every storm I endured, every sacrifice I made, was a step closer to her. My heart was tethered to two worlds, the vast, unforgiving sea and the tender, fragile love waiting at home, and I often wondered which one demanded more courage, which one tested me more, which one could break me entirely. The day I finally saw the harbor, a surge of hope and anticipation washed over me like the tide itself. Months at sea had hardened my body, tested my will, and filled my heart with longing, but nothing had prepared me for the swell of emotion that came with the thought of walking through familiar streets again. I could almost feel the cobblestones beneath my boots as I imagined her waiting at the gate, her eyes searching the horizon for the silhouette of the ship that carried me back to her. Each step I had taken at sea had been a march toward this very moment, each night of longing a rehearsal for the joy of seeing her smile. As the ship's anchor dropped, I felt the world shift beneath me, and the salty air seemed to mingle with the scent of home, familiar yet distant, teasing my senses. I pictured her standing there, the sun catching her hair, her hands nervously clasped, trembling slightly as she fought to hold back tears of happiness. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would wrap her in my arms, the warmth and safety I had dreamed of for months. The thought of finally hearing her voice in the quiet of our shared space made my chest ache with anticipation. Every familiar landmark sparked a memory, our first walk along the pier, the small cafe where we had spent afternoons talking about dreams and fears, the streets where laughter had once echoed between us. I carried these memories as fragile treasures, proof that time apart had not erased the bond between us, and they gave me courage as I took each step closer to her. My heart raced with a mixture of eagerness and nervousness, wondering if she would remember every little thing, if our love would feel the same, if the distance had left its mark in ways I could not see. And then, in my mind, I saw her, waiting, radiant, familiar yet changed in ways only absence could create. I imagined the moment she would notice me, the way her eyes might widen, the small gasp of recognition that would echo in my chest, the instant our worlds collided again. My body ached to close the distance, to feel the safety of her embrace, to let the months of solitude and longing dissolve in the warmth of her presence. In those fleeting seconds, I imagined the world shrinking to just the two of us, the sea and the sky fading into insignificance compared to the heartbeat I had longed to hear as I stepped off the ship and walked through streets I had once known like the back of my hand. A strange feeling settled over me, a quiet tension I could not place. The air smelled like home, familiar and comforting, yet something in the rhythm of life around me seemed off, like a song slightly out of tune. I had imagined this moment countless times, the reunion, the laughter, the warmth, but now, standing at the threshold of our shared world, I realized that absence had left invisible marks on both of us. She was the same and yet changed, and I felt an unfamiliar distance, subtle and unsettling, stretching between us. Her smile, once effortless and radiant, now carried a weight I had not expected. Her eyes, which had always mirrored my own thoughts and emotions, seemed guarded, holding memories and emotions that I had no part in. The conversations we had shared so freely in my memories now felt delicate and fragile, balanced on words unspoken. I noticed the little pauses, the slight hesitation before she spoke, the way her gaze sometimes lingered elsewhere. I wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap with the familiarity we once took for granted, but something invisible held me back, a quiet barrier that neither of us had built intentionally. Even the small details of our home seemed different, not because they had changed, but because I was returning as a stranger carrying months of separation and longing. The chair where she had once waited for me, the corner where laughter had lingered, even the familiar scent of our shared space, all felt altered, refracted through the lens of time apart. I realized that absence has a way of reshaping hearts, creating subtle shifts in emotions, priorities, and attachments. I had imagined that love would simply resume where it had paused, that our connection would pick up effortlessly, but reality was more delicate, more fragile than I had anticipated. I watched her move through the rooms, her gestures familiar yet unfamiliar, and I felt a pang in my chest. The love I had carried across oceans, the longing that had fueled every wave I faced, now encountered the quiet truth of change. And in that moment, I understood that the heart, like the sea, is shaped by time, distance, and currents unseen. The person I had loved from afar was still there, yet somehow different, transformed by months I had not witnessed, moments I had not shared, and decisions made in the silence of our separation. The moment it struck me, it was both sudden and inevitable, like a storm breaking over calm waters. I had imagined returning home to her warmth, to the embrace that would make the months at sea vanish, to the laughter and whispered secrets that had always bound us. But reality was heavier than memory, sharper than longing. I saw the subtle ways her eyes no longer sought mine, the hesitation in her voice, the quiet distance that had grown between us like a tide slowly rising, eroding the shore I thought was solid. It was as if the love I had carried across oceans, the dreams and promises I had nurtured, had been quietly shifted while I was away, leaving me to face a truth I could not have anticipated. Each interaction became a delicate dance, every word measured, every glance analyzed. I wanted to hold her, to tell her that nothing could diminish what we had shared, but even my voice felt foreign, carrying the weight of months of absence that neither of us could undo. I noticed the way she smiled politely, the way her hands moved without the ease and intimacy I remembered, and a quiet ache settled deep in my chest. My heart, which had been buoyed by hope and longing, now sank beneath the waves of reality, struggling against a current it could not fight. I wandered through the familiar rooms of our home, tracing memories like fragile ghosts, the laughter echoing from corners, the scent of dinners we had shared, the quiet moments of comfort and closeness. Each memory, once a source of strength, now seemed bittersweet, reminding me of what had been and highlighting the void that had quietly grown in my absence. It was not anger or betrayal, not even disappointment, but a sorrowful recognition that love, no matter how strong, can be changed by time, by distance, and by unspoken choices. The heartbreak was quiet but persistent, a subtle ache that pulsed beneath every thought, every breath. I wanted to reach across the space between us, to bridge the months apart with tenderness and familiarity, but I realized that some gaps cannot be crossed by desire alone. The bond I had imagined returning to, the joy I had longed for, now seemed just out of reach, delicate as glass, fragile as the waves I had sailed across to get home. Sitting alone in the quiet of the night, after the storm of my return had settled into a fragile stillness, I found myself reflecting on everything that had led me to this point. The months at sea, the endless horizon, the pounding of waves against the hull, all of it had been a journey not only through distance but through the depths of my own heart. I realized that love is not only measured in the joy of reunion or the warmth of presence, but in the strength it gives us to endure absence, to hope, and to grow despite longing and pain. Every sacrifice, every lonely night, every fleeting dream of her face had shaped me, teaching lessons that the calmest days could never convey. Even in the heartbreak, there was a quiet resilience, a recognition that the heart can bear more than we imagine. I saw how every wave I had faced at sea mirrored the turbulence within me, how every battle I had fought had prepared me for the subtler battles of emotion and attachment. I thought about the love that had once been a bright, unwavering light between us, now dimmed but not erased, and I realized that even its absence carries wisdom. The silence between us, the spaces where connection had faltered, taught me patience, introspection, and the courage to continue loving even when the world does not respond as we hope. I reflected on how much we change, how distance can reshape priorities, and how resilience is not merely the strength to endure hardship but the ability to see beauty in imperfection, to honor what was, and to carry its memory without letting it consume the present. I remembered her smile, her laughter, the small ways she had touched my life, and I felt gratitude even amid sorrow. Love, I realized, is not a guarantee of permanence, but a force that molds us, teaches us empathy, and deepens our understanding of our own hearts. And so, in the quiet, I held both the pain and the beauty together, acknowledging the heartbreak without letting it define me. I understood that resilience is found not only in survival but in reflection, in the willingness to embrace the lessons that longing and loss offer. My heart, though bruised, felt alive, carrying the echoes of love across time and distance, teaching me that even when dreams do not unfold as we envision, the journey itself leaves an indelible mark on the soul.